So, Perryn Smith is a managing director and chief technical engineer at the Krystal Clear Productions. He's involved in designing, implementing, managing audio, video, and multimedia projects. This includes overseeing a number of video editors, multimedia personnel, audio engineers, and he's also actually engaged in doing some of that himself, not just supervising. So he's highly gifted, talented, and he has worked on a number of national events, numerous private sector events, and I'm proud to say we have worked together in another context, amen, at my workplace, Jamaica Conference Center, and I'm glad to have him here. Welcome, Mr. Perryn Smith, who will be talking to us about live streaming 101. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me. I hope my background noise isn't too loud, as I am. This is one of the few times I'm proud to say I've taken a vacation. But Tyrell, I think you left off one thing. I'm a kingdom man.
Okay.
Our business is Thrive, and we are God-based, and we have no qualms about it. We are, the Lord Jesus is the maker and builder of his organization, so we give him thanks for that, you know. Hi, welcome everyone. I see that you have a number of persons online. They include about 27 people, and it's a pleasure to be a part of this integration. And just to talk with you a little bit, I know I've given about 20 minutes, about 30 minutes, so I'm going to keep my little talk down to about 15, 20, where I will open it up for questions. And where I can help or assist. The beauty about it is this is your free consultation in the shortest amount of time. But when we do this, I will say, hey, give us a call.
All right.
But Tyrell, thank you again. You're doing a wonderful thing here with your ministry, and we are proud to be a part of it. And thank you again for inviting us. So I want to talk a little bit on, it's a workshop 101 on streaming. So there are 5 key areas I want to communicate to you. What is live streaming? What are some of the basic gears or equipment that's needed? What to look out for? Unique tips and tricks. And this is a weird one, but it says how to plan or just plan. You know, so it's 5 things. What is live streaming? What are some of the basic gear and equipment needed? What to look out for? Unique tips and tricks, and plan. Okay, so let's dive deep into it quickly, because I want to hear your questions, and I want to talk to you because each person's situation is unique, and what I'm here to share are just some of the basics in terms of how to execute or what you need to execute, and some just to demystify some of the misconceptions or the how people understand streaming, right? So streaming is, you know, it's a live streaming technically is a word that is loosely used. It is because it can be easily mixed up with what is to stream live or what is streaming. So let me start with streaming, because streaming tends to be, and if you don't mind, I just need some markers here. It's 104. So I have 15 minutes to get through this section, and then we can talk on it. If at any point persons want to raise a hand and ask a quick question, feel free to do so, all right? So streaming on the other side is we're so used to using live streaming so loosely that technically when you stream, people look at it more as, or it's understood in the industry as more the back end side of the product. So let's look at this. You flip your TV on, you jump into Hulu, you jump into Netflix, you jump into any of the apps that are providing you content for which we call on demand. And what you're using is you're utilizing internet to bring content to you. So you're watching a stream. So it is stored somewhere, and at any given point, you're pulling it down. On the other end is live streaming. Is for me, I've been in the industry streaming for maybe 15 years, and we started out from the basics that knowing, going through, I don't know if anybody here would have been old enough to know a software or a service called Ustream. So initially there were two, like Ustream and Livestream. Literally, that's the name. And they wanted to make it easy for people to get content from their local destination to some remote space and for people to be engaged. And what has happened over time is that things have evolved. And if you haven't evolved, and this is a very critical thing for your church and your ministry, is that if you're not keeping abreast of what's happening and making positive changes with your content, how you put out your content, is that you're going to be left behind. And if we look at some of these things, we can see that, where's Ustream today? Because I remember the days when Ustream and live stream back in the day, or even when I converted to live stream, is that Ustream used to be a thing whereby you buy hours, you buy streaming hours on their platform, and you used to have to calculate like, okay, I'm going to have a stream for 1 hour, but I have 27 viewers. It will be counted as 27 viewing hours. And you'd have had a quota for like 3,000 hours for the month based on your plan, or, it's a free plan you had, maybe 1,000 hours. And it used to be very costly, because if you went over that into overages, your bill would just skyrocket. And so people evolved and said, hey, what are some of my options here now? I can tell you a flat fee. And in that flat fee now, you find that you can have unlimited bandwidth, unlimited streams, whatever it is, according to what your needs were. And so a lot of people have developed over the time. And I'll go into some of those who have actually come on board and have that experience whereby you recognize a shift and you're providing a similar product, but with some key differentiations. But let's go back into what is live stream. How is it achieved? I want to leave with you, if you don't understand live streaming properly, or what is greatly known as what's called content delivery network, CDNs, is this analogy. I want you to picture, Tyrell, where's your church?
20 South Camp Road in front of Sabina Park.
All right, great. That's on that Bethel Apostolic.
Yes, sir.
Oh, great. All right, great. I didn't know that, but I actually know, I think your minister, and this is First Lady. So it's good, it's connected. So you're at Bethel Apostolic, and you need to meet 3 persons in different locations at the same time. So I want you to look and say to yourself, I'm at South Camp Road. I need to connect with somebody in Halfway Tree. I need to connect with somebody in Papine, and I need to connect with somebody in Spanish Town, all at the same time, right? So this is what a content delivery network does for you. It says to you, here, guess what happened? It might be efficient if you had a one-on-one meeting with somebody in Papine for you to leave South Camp and head straight up South Camp Road, Old Hope Road, and right into Papine. But you will miss out on an opportunity to meet somebody in Halfway Tree and Spanish Town simultaneously. So a content delivery network gives you the features or the benefits that allows you to say, here, what happened? You come to my central hub, and my central hub, if I'm supposed to take a bus or a taxi, would be Crossroads or Halfway Tree. And once I get it to Halfway Tree, I go to Halfway Tree, I can almost duplicate you and send you out wherever you want to go. And this is the beauty of it. It allows you to reach a wider community on multiple platforms in one of the most efficient ways. And guess what happened? You don't have to do a lot of the optimizations. So in a basic streaming and understanding of what you get from whether or what persons are able to achieve, you may have a situation where Facebook only takes a certain type of signal, a certain quality signal, YouTube takes a different, your website is able to facilitate way greater. You as the individual person who is at South Camp Road would be in an environment whereby you're able to send out the best quality to a central location, and based on optimizing, it can say, hey, I got you to halfway through, I got you to Crossroads, but here what happened. The fastest route to get to Papine, maybe a bus or a taxi, but guess what happened? You may need a luxury car from Crossroads to go to Spanish Town, because Spanish Town needs that amount of, or let's say a bus, a little private coach, and then you need a private car to get to halfway through. So content delivery networks are there for that reason. And just to share a few of them, if you're not aware of them, these include persons like Vimeo.com, which is livestream.com. Vimeo bought out livestream.com, so it's now Vimeo and Livestream. You have Caster, Restream.io, just to name a few. Of course, these come at a cost and different benefits according to your needs. So let's also look at what, in today's COVID environment, we find that persons themselves, they don't necessarily know of what CDNs are and say, hey, you know what, let me just reach my people on Facebook, let me reach my people on YouTube. CDNs can give you that benefit all in one go. But for some persons, they may say, hey, you know what, a lot of my traffic is on Facebook, on YouTube. And to move from South Camp Road, let's consider Papine to be your YouTube. For you, it might just be easier to go straight from South Camp Road to Papine, straight from South Camp Road to YouTube. You have to be able to know and understand what your risks are, what your benefits are, and the functionalities of who you can reach. So let me give you an example. YouTube in itself has the greatest possibility for viewership. Hands down, YouTube, a lot of the social media platforms has the possibility for you reaching people quickly. It's the easiest way to get subscribers. It's the easiest way to just get your content out. But the drawback is this. We tend to forget, and I don't know if I looked at the program and you had a lot of persons dealing with audio, you had your vocals, in terms of the songs you sing. When you're going online, you have to also be wary about how you utilize what's copyright information or content that is used. And because of the algorithms and because it's an open source platform, the algorithms can flag you, can restrict you, and actually cut down, block your content. Whereby if you go through a CDN, part of your subscriptions cover some of these costs and the associated challenges that you may have utilizing content. But it's still, I'm still encouraging, and this is a side note, where possible, do not use persons' content without their permission, and you can inadvertently get permission through a lot of the local agencies, whether it is what's called CCLI. Well, CCLI is an international agency. It's a Christian copyright licensing. I think, I don't remember what the I is for, but you can speak to your JCAP or any of your local copyright agencies to ensure that any content you use online you have the permission to do so. So that's a side there. So it's very important you know where you want to get your traffic or your viewership and how you want to get there. In its simplest form, you may have started out and saying, in COVID, we just need to reach our members. And YouTube and Facebook, based on plans that we have locally, is that you would find that persons have YouTube free as part of a data plan. And so it's easier than them trying to look or to go to a website to view content. So these are some of the things you have to analyze in relation to what you want and what you need. And so let me hurry on. So I've spoken a little bit in terms of who your CDNs are. I've also spoken to who some of the free ones are, the YouTube, the Facebook, but also acknowledging that they do have limitations. And I want to talk quickly about some basic here. So there's a quick workflow. You need some input source. You need a transmission medium, as in how do I get my input source into whatever device I need to be able now to stream out. And so you have your camera, laptop, or physical camera, and cameras vary. Cameras vary, and it's based on your need. So the quickest thing for you to do is to say, here, guess what happened? I can tell you there are PTZs are running, which means pan tilts and zooms. They're running crazy now. They have their pros and cons, but they're very good. We like PTZ optics, new tech. We also like persons like Panasonic, Sony. Those are higher end. You can find cheaper options. But I'd say be very careful, because sometimes cheaper options and no-name brands tend to run the risk of a lack of firmware upgrades and anything that could optimize your system in a way. So I have bought gear from Far East. I won't say how far east, but far east. But you have to understand that your support is also what is very critical. So I tend to stay for cameras, stay as best as possible with relatively good brand names, and the forums are out there. If you go on Facebook, you can find a number of forums which guide you in terms of cameras, some basic setups, stuff like that. The next thing you want to know is, how am I going to get my signal from my camera into whatever capture device? So there are two ways you can consider capture devices. You can either determine that your capture device is going to be a physical switcher or a software-based device. I'll go into that shortly, but based on what you know that your switcher is, you now need to know what type of output you're going to need out of your camera. People will say SDI, which is a production grade signal, which means serial digital interface, I believe, yes. Or you could come HDMI out. SDI has better runs for cable length. HDMI has its limitations. And so what has happened, or what has evolved over the last 2 years or so, is that more and more our devices are coming out with HDMI outputs, but we need longer lengths. So they have now started with the adapters and converters and things of that sort. And so now that we know what our output is out of the camera, we now need to know what physical switcher or software device we are going to have to be able to integrate that into some switching system. In today's world, if you're just starting out, a Blackmagic switcher does the basic things. You gotta know what you're doing, but it is tons of usages. I use them, but it's not my core system, right? If I was sending out a simple stream, or I had one of my technicians go out and we needed just to integrate for a funeral or something of that sort, we have smaller systems that we allow for a single camera integration, something that might not need a long cable run, that I can easily get good audio in, because no stream is good without good audio. So I'm actually hoping, Tyrell, that my audio is good. It would be quite bad if it wasn't good, right? And so, these are some of the considerations that you have to make in relation to what device you're using. So moving from that now, so we've done your camera is your input. You need a medium to get your signal from your camera to your switcher. You have some physical switchers, which are going to be like a Blackmagic. You have I won't even go on the high end in terms of Panasonic, new tech, but you do have some low end ones that are coming out of RGB Link. Roland, thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much. Roland is there as well. You have low end going up, but they don't start as low as the Blackmagic design, right? So these are some of the things that are available to use. So in my organization, we use a lot more software-based switching. And the reason for that is that with hardware devices, we find ourselves with greater limitations. You have to sit and decide for yourself how, or rather, what do I want to put on put it on the table to be able to manipulate, to be able to give the best output. So, for example, I do a production at Jamaica Conference Center, and even though Daniel, as coming to you, even though we might use 2 or 3 cameras, I could be using up to 12 inputs easily. I might be running 2 media players because I want video playbacks. I might be running 3 graphic layers. I might need to route things differently. And software-based systems have to be tailored based on your needs. Daniel, you made a very good question. You sent a question there. Yes, a switcher is something that allows you to change your inputs to determine your output. And so some of the software-based switchers we will consider. Everybody knows, if you didn't know, OBS, Open Broadcast Software. It is open source. It is free. It has some limitations, but it also is great at some things as well. Right? You have vMix, which is a paid subscription. You have Livestream Studio, which is under the Vimeo brand. It's free. However, it is limited. Part of it being free is that it's limited and locked to their system or some other known services. So, for example, if you don't, you have to have a Vimeo CDN account to be able to stream out to Facebook and all of these places. But the software is free, so that's the beauty of it. Free upgrades, things of that sort. So you have to understand what is easy. Thank you, Andre, Wirecast. I see Ned OBS. So I'm talking to the converted, and I'm happy about it. I'm talking to the converted. So I'm just naming a few, but these are some of the ones that you can utilize to execute what you're doing on a given day or its time. Let me hurry on. Moving on, so we've discussed your camera, your transmission medium, your naughty switcher. Now you need to, that's all local, what we call local to your environment. And we're now looking at how you're going to get it out. You're going to need a reliable internet source. That's hands down. You could do all your prep from start to the switcher. If you don't have a reliable internet source, all that you've done comes to naught. So I tend to tell persons, I do not live on Wi-Fi. Everything is hard cabled. Hard cabled, reliability, better data speeds, better reliability, and there's just so much more I can do with over Wi-Fi. Somebody was saying anything but flow. No, Andre, I'm not going to take you on. I'm not going to take. I like what you said, but hey, not going to take you on. Right? Somebody also made a comment that the OBS is difficult to use. It's not. It's really not. You do have to understand the workflow of OBS in terms of its scenes. But if you take a single camera in, it's something easy to get out. It's really easy. So we use them. I use OBS sometimes because I can do things from straight to Instagram, which in general most systems can't, just because of orientation, things of that. So people have recognized, as I said, is the weaknesses of others and done some key differentiators to enhance what they offer, but maybe not be able to do some of the nicer things of other softwares. So yeah, so I'm liking what's happening in the chat. So as I said, we need to really and truly ensure that internet is reliable as best as possible. Run your hard cable to some modem or router rather that can give you the output that you need. And in some cases, and I don't know where everybody, the demographic of those who are here, but where possible, I'd recommend get a business package for your church because it has better what we call operating SOPs, which is standard operating, I think, procedures, or that's not really the term. They have better guarantees. So you get better bandwidth, you have a higher reliability, and also now you have a guarantee. Of course, the prices differ. So where you could say at home internet I get 100 megs and yes, you're paying $5,000, you might get 30 megs, but you're getting consistent 30 megs upload and download. And in the case of a stream, your upload is what is extremely critical. You may now spend $15,000 a month on it. But if it goes down, you now have the option to say your ISP, your internet service provider, has a guarantee that I can come and repair you, get you up and running in a shorter time than if, for example, your regular residential package will tell you 7 working days, they may tell you 1 to 2 working days. So these are some of the benefits of it all. So quickly moving on, what to look for. Every good stream has about 3 factors that I would say should not be neglected. And that is good lighting, right? Good video quality. And for me, I'm an audio guy. Krystal Clear Production started out in audio. And I will say to you, good audio. You can have fabulous internet, fabulous video, but if people can't hear and their experience isn't audible, for me, they automatically leave. So let me put it this way. You're in your sanctuary, and what tends to fool a lot of persons is that whoever is mixing audio many times is not hearing the true sound because it is filled with ambient noise. It is also filled with the collective singing of even those who are in your congregation, which tends not to display or to portray the true sound. So the drummer beat out the snare. Why? Because he can't hear, right? And for you, all you've done is just brought him down in the mix, because to you it sounds loud in the house, and you're not really hearing the true mix that's being sent out. So somebody who is listening on a stream has no option but to hear what you're hearing. So if somebody licks an off-key note, if the keyboard is too low, the snare isn't managed, snare or kick isn't managed, especially the hi-hat, because if you're listening on a computer, most computers tend not to carry the bass frequencies as well as how they do the top end frequencies. So you tend to hear, why is that balance out? And so at Bethel, what we tend to do, and I don't know if Andre or the team that has done, because I just caught I think it's Andre who was doing the presentation, correct, right? He was talking about some of your audio mixes and just integrating effects, stuff like that. Is that even though we don't have a large team, so our team is actually 3 persons on a given Sunday. So for all of COVID, at Bethel, we have run our services live, straight to internet, streaming for worship every Sunday, except for maybe about 4 or 5 Sundays at 7 a.m. We'd have a crew call at 6 a.m. And I'm going to go into some other things. And the team, just in the booth, would be 1 on audio, 1 on visuals, 1 on video, a floor manager, and maybe 1 for streaming. When we had to restrict the numbers now, we said, all right, let's see how we could double up. And in doubling up now, we recognize, all right, so the audio guy now needs to run some basic graphics for video. The audio guy also is responsible for recording and ensuring the stream goes out, because that is in a station by itself. Then visuals or graphics. When I say visuals or graphics, because part of what we do also is that we share content to screens, to confidence monitors, overlays for video, and that goes out, right? And so we're running just basic tech team. We're running 5, 6 people plus worship team. I love my church. I love my church. And I say I'm a lover of audio. And what was important or has always been audio is that we don't necessarily have the strongest singers, but what was critical for the stream is that whoever mixed did an extremely good job at mixing even the worst of our singers. So that somehow the persons online had a good experience, wanted to come back into church, literally because of the experience they had online. Right? So I'm all for good audio. Very, very important. And sometimes people neglect good audio. So I want you to leave here today saying to me, how can I now move from just having the mic on the camera going out to the stream and people can't hear the sermon clearly, or they're hearing worship happening, but it's somebody might be around the camera, the phone or some recording device, and the audio isn't clean, and somebody literally walks by and says something and you're hearing it on the stream. I want this team here, small but valuable, to move from having a noisy environment to integrating something nice, clean, that's something audible that somebody can now listen back to and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I learned something from that sermon because I could hear clearly. You know, that song ministered really to me because guess what happened? I didn't have to be focusing on what was wrong with what they were doing because I could hear clearly what they were doing. You know, you also have to remember that in a stream, people don't have an option to listen to you, but they also have an option. It sounds weird. They also have an option to leave. So critically is that you have to do your best in engaging them to be able to keep them, because there's so many things that can distract. And the reality of it, you know, is everybody's streaming, and you might have your loyalists, but even some of your own church members, because they know that they can, at a flip of a switch, click of a button, they can leave your Zoom meeting, they can leave your stream to go and worship somewhere else. And so these are some of the things that are going to be critical in your execution of your worship. Boy, Tyrell, you told me 20 minutes, and I'm really trying to keep it to 20 minutes. I sat with my wife and I went through my talking points, and I thought I'd be done in 10, but geez, you know, it's great. It's great sharing with people of God. It's really, really great. So moving on to, so I've dealt with what is live streaming. I've dealt with the second one, your basic gear. I've dealt with what to look out for. The last one is tips and tricks. No, second to last is tips and tricks. Tips and tricks include proper planning and integration. I cannot stress, rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. Because what it allows for you to do is this. It allows for you on an off day or a rehearsal day to be able to play around, to tweak, to recommend, and to be able for people to now pull back, evaluate. It might be over at night. So at better we have rehearsals on a Saturday primarily for about 3 hours. So the first 2 hours and a half is worship leader, the group that's responsible for leading songs, things of that sort. It's a perfect time for the audio engineer to tweak audio. It's a perfect time to try something new. And then what we do is we actually do a full run through of church. It sounds weird. So what we don't know or recognize is that Andre spoke a little bit about it, is that we want the same type of sound that a recording artist will have on an album, but we're not willing to put in the work. We also want the same. Sorry, Anthony said audio feedback right now.
Yeah, it's like a low frequency thing in the background, like a drilling or something. Yeah.
Oh, I think I may know the problem. I don't know if my fan started. Is it still there?
Yeah, it's there. Okay. So, all
Let
right,
me see if I can.
that's better.
It's better.
It's coming and going, but continue.
I must apologize for that, right? So yes, so part of it is that the rehearsal is key in terms of ensuring that your pre-preparation is there for execution. To be honest, sometimes we think that we're too full of it in general, even as skilled as I am, or even my team, that rehearsals are not necessary. It's a misconception, and it is the easiest way for you to fail. And unfortunately, we now blame others. So where it is that we could have a rehearsal, and we have an environment whereby we can either communicate, ensure that the mixes are proper with the band, if the drummer is being rather exuberant, things of that sort, we now can shift that mindset to say, hey, you know what, Tyrell, for this song, can we work on the attenuation of your drum mix, right? And I'm hoping Andre looked into a lot of things in terms of, the benefits of things like in-ear monitors, or just getting your monitor mix right, your host mix right, because as I say, I'm big on that. But rehearsal is super critical in terms of getting worship done. So many times we might even look at a better music or an elevation worship, and we don't understand the amount of work that's put into it, whether it is through, for those who are new, some of them might be a little bit more experienced with click tracks, Ableton Live, things of that sort. And so we can do some research on that, can't go deep into this, right? But if you look into it, these things help or enhance worship, but it grows with you in terms of you have to start with the basics and add on in order to enhance the experience. So that for me is a key takeaway. Just rehearse. The last before I go into planning, is to keep aware of new technologies. Things happen so quickly, right? Subscribe to online worship content, magazines. I think you have church worship online. You have different magazine content providers who can send you a quarterly newsletter or a quarterly ebook that would help to guide and say, hey, you know what, this new camera is out, because you're going to have Sony, PTZ optics, you're going to have different persons sharing that, hey, how the cam, that we have these things coming out, it might have this option, you can go straight USB into your computer, gives you a 4K video, you can crop it, you can scale it, you can zoom in on it. So be aware of new technologies. There's one good thing that has evolved, and I've been with this product for maybe the last 15 years. When I really scale up my business, I want a total outfit of new tech devices, NEWTEK. So if you go to newtech.com, you'll see some awesome production switchers, software switchers. Yes, they have hardware integration, but they're software-based switchers. And they have an awesome software called NDI, which is Network Device Interface. What it allows you to do, and it allows you to take any signal on a network, convert it into some form of network usable content, which can be integrated. And these are some of the pros of using a software-based system, whereby it's not as easy for a hardware-based system. I've been coming with them from their version, maybe version 1, and to see them at version 5.01.11, right? This is over maybe 15 years of just integrations, and more persons have actually taken them on to say, hey, what, you're proprietary to new tech, but they have open sourced it and said, here, developers, integrate our protocol. And it has become one of the greatest innovations for persons in terms of just straight across the board. So NDI, Google it, Look for it. Last thing is plan. Plan, 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 plan. Proper planning starts from who's your team on there to get your stream out. Let people know that they also need to not just plan for, we are not planning for them or planning for who is going to execute, but they or you personally need to plan. Plan means be on time, be early, be efficient but effective, right? So it comes back to the point that sometimes we think we're too great to be on time. We need to be on time. So I'll tell you, true call for us at Bethel on a given Sunday, even though we'd have done full rehearsals, full run-throughs, we checked the majority of things. At 6:57 a.m., we are live. What it therefore means is the core team needs to be on site no later than 6:15 a.m. every Sunday morning, right? So part of your planning is not just that you are a team member there, but you need to plan for yourself that I need to be on time, I need to be prepared, and that my execution is not just based on my own skill sets, but also something that I'm giving God the glory, so I need to give him the best. With that being said, I thank you. If there are any questions, feel free. I am here. I know, sorry, I presented longer than I wanted to because I want to have some quick questions from persons just to be able to help you or guide you where necessary.
Mr. Perryn Smith. Wow. CEO of Crystal Clear Productions. They have handled a whole lot of major projects, complex projects, simple projects, and you have heard him speak at length about his work with Bethel. Just to say to those, it's Bethel Baptist in Halfway Tree, that Bethel 20 South Cap Road. A lot of folks that I tell them I go Bethel, they say, wow, Halfway Tree. All right, so let's just. I see the tech is waking up. Oh Lord! So we just have 2 minutes. Ladies, please stay with us. I know this. Yeah. All the men are like excited right now because this is their era. But Mr. Fisher is highly experienced in that field as well. Mr. Fisher, you have a question. Anyone else have any question? Please use your raise hand. Let's have 2 to 3 minutes question and answer. Go ahead, Mr. Fisher. Mr. Perryn is on his vacation with his wife, so we can't keep him too long. Mr. Fisher? Oh, Lord, I didn't allow them to unmute. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Fisher.
Mr. Perryn, good afternoon. How are you?
Giving God thanks.
All right, you spoke about NDI, which for us in the field, we would know that this would most likely work with a network issue. And in Jamaica, where the internet or telephone system is so unstable, would you advise churches who are setting up streaming system to use that type of network issue, NDI specific?
So remember, NDI is not internet based. You can send your content over the internet and a signal, but you can have a local area network that uses NDI that is still not connected to the internet. So you could have a production, internal production, and you're still running NDI on a lot of different devices for different reasons, but no need for internet. I did forget something. I don't know if you guys are aware of some of the key worship softwares for graphics, Easy Worship, Pro Presenter, each of them having their own unique functionality. Pro Presenter can stream, things of that sort, but it is also based on your need. And what I'd say to you, not because it's loved by me or loved by the forums, I'd say to evaluate your needs to be able to make the best decision for whatever gear, software, or personnel that you will need to execute an awesome worship stream.
One final thing I want to say to you, a lot of churches like to see the best production, but are reluctant when it comes on to spending on equipment. If there's a pastor or administrator listening in here, what advice would you give to them in terms of buying proper equipment to get the best quality out there?
Thank you. Wonderful question. Wonderful, wonderful question. That is also part of your planning. Planning means this. You have to get buy-in, and we're gonna let's do things on a small scale. Start small, but with the basics to get to where you need, so that your team can get buy-in for further upgrades. It's rather difficult for persons who don't understand the concept of streaming, who don't understand the value of streaming, to be able to say, hey, let me get up and spend $5,000 US, 10,000 US, 20,000 US dollars on streaming gear to get it done perfectly. But if you start it small and say, hey, let's look at a 3-year plan in terms of how we're going to improve our content. We need these basic things. We might need $2,000. See where it is, it falls within your church budget. And this is where as integrators or users of users of the equipment and those responsible for executing, is that sometimes, the truth is, one or two of you are going to have to bite the bullet and buy a little piece of equipment and say, church, I donating it here. What I would say to you though is this, and this is a principle I don't want any person to leave here with. If you're buying it and giving it to church, don't own it. It's not yours. Give it and leave it alone. Because ownership of things you give to God, you don't want it to be said that I gave this. If you're giving it, give it with a cheerful and a willing heart. But you may need to say, let's see, how can I help the process of people understanding the vision and dream or the foresight to be able to get buy-in? And buy-in means, all right, you go to your leadership and say, here, I noticed this is on Facebook, but we want to just, in the next 2 weeks, next month, can we just try and do something better about audio? And to do something better about audio for the online experience, we need an audio interface. We need a better mixing board, things like that. So some of these might be small in comparison to others. So where it is that you can't necessarily just get a church to sign off on a nice Soundcraft. I think Andre had a Soundcraft mixing console there. I think that looks similar in front of, or is a Presonus, okay. Where it is that you might want to spend that $2,000 on a device or $3,000. I see in the side profile, I see which device it is now, Andre. Thanks, yes, I see it. Right, where it is that a church might not be able to immediately spend $2,000-3,000 on a digital console. I love digital consoles now. I love them. I use the Midas, I use the Perryn, I use the Soundcraft, so there are a number of them. They're galore. But where they may not be able to spend that money upfront, you can still have an analog board, proper audio techniques. You have an audio interface that can get you good audio into your streaming software. You can step up your game. It's not just a linear integration, but you're now stepping up it to now improve on what you already have. So small things can make big differences, and it will help you to get buy-in with your proper planning in terms of what's the budget for the next year, so your church can also plan. I hope I answered the question.
Yes, sir. Thank you. One more from Daniel, the man with the big software up there, Edna. Come through, Mr. Edna.
All right, frame rate. Daniel, that's what you're asking? Oh no, Daniel, Brian was asking frame rates. Okay.
Okay. So for me, my question is this. So at my church, what we do is stream on Zoom, and then we take that recording, edit it, put all the overlays and fancy stuff, as I would say, and then put it on YouTube afterwards. But our problem is this. So the engineer is unable to focus on the streaming mix, the broadcast mix, and the live mix. And I play keyboards, so I am mainly I have use a Behringer X32. So I have the app on my phone and my tablet, whichever one I feel like using, I use it. And I'm just mainly mixing the monitors on stage. So, no more sign language to the engineer, really. But there's no one to sort out the broadcast mix. And it's quite hard. Sometimes I try to set a balance on it, but then afterwards, and I listen to it and I said, Jano, we don't really have anybody to sit down and just, do the little tweakings and stuff for the broadcast mix so we can take that Zoom mix and put it on YouTube, right? So what the person who videos does, they use their Canon camera and they use the mic and the camera and just edit it and put it on YouTube, but it does not sound good because they always try to put some filter, something on it to kind of quench the ambient noise that would get from the church. And I'm telling them, no, no, you can't do that. But you can't tell them to use the Zoom thing either because it does so good either. Because when the praise and worship start to sing, I have to be playing and there's no one to control the volume of the Zoom broadcast mix. So what would you advise, in my little situation here?
All right, so couple things rather. Remember, I said to you, rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. This is a
True.
opportunity to be able to mitigate some of these issues. You're not going to get it right straight off the bat, or even if you've done the rehearsals and you've done prepping and you've kind of tweaked some things, you still
Yeah,
get it perfect, but you'll be closer to that objective.
true.
The next thing is, I would say, determine. So our engineer, whether myself or somebody else at better, is we took a deliberate decision. Are we mixing first for broadcast or we're mixing first for live? In many cases, people mix for live and then want to send something to broadcast. We did it differently. We mix for broadcast,
And then send something.
but for live, right? And so what it is that whoever is mixing, first and foremost, mixes for broadcast, gets the mix right and sends sub outputs, sends different wrote different things, subgroup things, run DCAs, things of that sort to be able to manipulate just baseline things. So I'm going to assume some people, I'm going to talk some language, and I'm hoping Andre can back me up here, and he should be able. The majority of digital consoles have 16 buses out. If you have maybe some expansion cards, you would
Yeah.
have more. So what we did is this: we ran the first maybe 8 or 9 buses for different mixes, whether it's recordings, floor mixes, band mix, drums, keyboards, bass. About 6 basic mixes. Then we now would have something like a mix for recording, which could have it, and we'd run each of them whether pre-fader, post-fader. And in doing so now, if it is that we now determine that some of the mixes now, we said, all right, if we run in post-faders, and if we are properly mixing from the get-go from the broadcast mix side, it naturally is into the post fader.
Yeah.
All right, and all it would be is that if you just want the volume of the vocals up a little bit, you just push the master for the subgroup up a little bit, just so that the house mix peaks out a little differently. So there are different techniques could be used to ensure that your quality maintains with it. But of course, you'd have to tweak your house, make sure your house EQs are properly and there's no feedback in the
Mm-hmm.
house. Primarily, if your input source is good,
Mm-hmm.
your primary mixing source is good, or your output from your primary mixing source is good,
Yeah.
you're adding little effects here and there without overdoing it, things of that sort. You now get to the point whereby whatever you send to the host is close enough
Mm-hmm.
to what your broadcast mix is. All right.
Okay.
So we are better to approach with the broadcast first and then send
Mm-hmm.
alternatives to host.
Okay. A
Um,
next thing.
wait. Just before you ask
So,
this question, before you ask the next question, Daniel, Tyrell, if I may, I just want to ask you a question.
2 to
Daniel,
3 minutes left.
yeah. Did you say, Daniel, did you say that for the video that you later placed on YouTube, that was the audio was recorded on the camera that they used to record the service? Was that what you said?
all right. So we use two different cameras.
Yeah.
We use two different cameras. So one would be used for the Zoom people. And then the next camera would be the actual camera that would record the service on. What we try to do, we try to record using through the USB port in the mixer and then send it to the person, but she was having a very hard time to sync both the audio and the video together. And she said she never want that too much work
Okay.
there.
So I'm going to give you a
So
quick response because time is on us and Tyrell have we on the clock and I have exceeded my time.
sure.
Could do is this. If you have good audio, run it
Mm-hmm.
our cables and convert it straight into the camera. So whatever you're mixing
Okay.
is clean
Mm-hmm.
straight in. So you just have to
Okay.
if you make sure there are no buzzes on the line, make sure it's good audio cable and go straight into the camera and whichever camera you pick
Mm-hmm.
off to do your recording, your audio will be
Yeah.
clean. So
Okay.
it's just now for you to monitor what signal you're getting on the camera physically to make
Yeah.
sure that your levels they're not clipping and so
Mm-hmm.
it's out a mixing board audio cable.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Great. Yes, sir.
All right, folks, that was a $1 million conversation right there with Perryn Smith. Amen. Thank God for you, sir.